It's the Dome that inspired all the others, the Astrodome in Houston, Texas. And tonight, the first-place team in the AFC Central, our 4-1 Cleveland Browns, play the 1-4 Houston Oilers. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Phelps, along with Ron Jans. Last week, the Sunday game was bye week in the AFC Central, so that means the Browns have had 11 days off since their last game. The Oilers have had 10 since they played on the last Monday night game. And, Ron, both of these teams could use a little rest and a little time to get adjusted.
Well, Jeff, good and bad news tonight for the Cleveland Browns. We all know about Tommy Vardell and Walter Reeves. They are, of course, out for the season with injuries. Wide receiver Mark Carrier will play tonight. His hamstring feels fine, but wide receiver Michael Jackson did not even make the trip to Houston, so Jackson obviously will not be in uniform tonight. He will not play. Steve Everett will be back at center. Everett has not played since the Indianapolis game, so we can imagine how fired up Steve Everett will be. As for the Houston Oilers, quarterback Cody Carlson is out. Bucky Richardson will start there. Carlson hurt all over. And running back Gary Brown, remember him, Browns fans? All Brown did last year against Cleveland was rush for 300 yards. He is listed as doubtful tonight. Gary Brown has a bad ankle.
The Browns have played the Oilers 6 times with Bill Belichick as head coach. They've lost 5 games. The only win of the whole thing was 2 years ago right here in the Astrodome. The losses, though, have been pretty close. Last year, the Oilers won by a touchdown at the stadium. The other 4 losses, all by 4 points or less. The Oilers might need a little bit of that history tonight because these teams are off to very different starts.
How nice is life with the Cleveland Browns right now?
I feel real good. You know, I'm not selling any Super Bowl tickets yet, but, you know, so far at this point in the season, you know, outside of beating Pittsburgh at home, you know, I don't think it could be any more perfect than it is right now.
A 4-1 record after 5 games is the Browns' best under Bill Belichick, and the best for the franchise since 1979. It has them in first place in the AFC Central by a game over Pittsburgh. The Browns' only loss was to the Steelers, the only one of the Browns' first 5 opponents that had a winning record and made the playoffs last year. The Browns' last game was the 27-7 win over the New York Jets at the stadium.
We steadily progressed. I mean, you know, we lost to Pittsburgh, but I think that, you know, we played a real solid game in that game. And, you know, if we can just keep on doing the things that we've been doing and keep improving, we're going to be getting in good shape.
We've earned our position right now, but in order to keep it, it's going to take a lot of work. And we're going to have to continue to correct some of the mistakes that we're making because teams are going to get better and better. You know, they watch us every weekend. They know what our mistakes are going to be. So we have to correct some of our mistakes and, you know, to play better and better each week to get to a status of where we are a very good team. There's only 5 games. Last year we were 5-2. We only won 2 of 7. So until we are sure that we're going to get in the playoffs, we're still going to be fighting hard and trying hard and try to get to that postseason.
The attitude is a little bit different with the Oilers.
It's very, very disappointing. I'm 1-4. My buddies right now, they're laughing at me. They're laughing at the Houston Oilers and everything. Everybody had high expectations for us, and my family be laughing at me. They said, "You're not even getting a ball. You might as well come on home and be with us."
But the Oilers should be used to this. It's the 2nd straight year they've started the season 1-4. Last year, they won their last 11 games to finish the season 12-4, tied with Buffalo and Dallas for the best record in the league. But the Oilers' only win so far this year was against Cincinnati. And in their last game, the Oilers were down 20-0 to Pittsburgh after the first quarter and lost 30-14.
Right now, we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems. We got to learn how to protect well. We got to, run routes real well. The quarterback got to get the ball from center snap, and we got to go all the way back to the basics and get back to where we belong.
We do have to get better at our execution. We have to get better in practice. We have to get better in the games, and that's going to be important for us not to lose sight of that and panic and say, well, we're 1-4. We still have 11 games left. If we panic now, it's going to be a long, long season.
Although we've lost 4 games, I think in every single game we beat ourselves, and I think that if we can overcome beating ourselves and go out and try to, put this thing together and go out and beat teams, I think we've still got a very good team.
The Oilers did win their last 11 games last year, but Warren Moon is not their quarterback anymore. He's a Minnesota Viking, and that's been a huge difference in their offense.
It's been a huge difference in their record, or probably will be. Jeff, believe it or not, there are an awful lot of Browns fans here in Houston rooting for the Cleveland Browns, and one of them, you longtime Cleveland Browns fans, will have no trouble remembering. We'll talk to him next on Browns Thursday Night.
Ryan passes against the Baltimore Colts. Gary Collins makes a spectacular catch. Final score, Cleveland 27, Baltimore nothing. And the Cleveland Browns are world champions.
We all know how popular the Browns are in Cleveland. There's no question about that. But this might be a little bit of a surprise. The Browns have the biggest fan club nationally of any team in the NFL.
Well, Jeff, right now there are 198 Browns backers clubs across the whole world. Coach Bill Belichick isn't just cheered or jeered in your living room. He's cheered or jeered in places like Egypt, London, Puerto Rico, and right here in Houston, too. Scoreboard Sports Bar is the Houston version of the Dog Pound for Browns fans, and it's not uncommon at all to see a line outside this place 3 hours before game time. The reason, it's simple. So every transplanted Browns fan can get a good seat near this big screen TV, and then they let loose.
I go to church down the road here, so we have to drive 2 cars to go to church. I carry my clothes in the back of my truck. Go to church, we get done, say goodbye to mom and the kids, and I run out here and change clothes in my truck out in the parking lot or go to McDonald's or something and get out here in line. And I got the radio on, listen to pre-games, you know, all that kind of stuff.
In this place, the Browns always get the thumbs up. Hey, the Indians are even a favorite. Most of the folks you'll find here, in one way or the other, have a tie to Cleveland and a message to tell.
I'm here every Sunday, without fail, in my Browns garb, rooting them on if they win or lose.
There's not a whole lot of support I've seen for the Oilers, so they got to have somebody, you know. So the Browns are Brown lovers. Wherever you go, look around. The biggest area is right here.
Of course, not all Browns fans here in Houston have a chance to get to the scoreboard on Sunday to watch the games. We're thinking of 4 Clevelanders in particular here, at least former Clevelanders. After all, some people have to work on weekends, and it's often very, very difficult to stop the space shuttle. Isn't that the truth? It always is. Even delayed a liftoff just for a Browns game. It can't be done. NASA's headquarters are right here in Houston, and there are more astronauts from Northeast Ohio than any other region in the country. That means the Cleveland Browns have been and will be for some time well represented.
We've actually gone to some of the games as a group and have dared to sit among a lot of the Oiler fans with our Browns T-shirts and hats and so on. And you sort of take your life in your hands when you do that.
So I try to compensate for that. I've got just a cowbell, a Browns cowbell, and a barking dog here, and we just take a lot of equipment down there for yelling and screaming and try to make as much noise as we can.
It was great. We had a whole section from NASA that was there rooting. Don Thomas had his face painted orange and brown, and it was great.
We have a camaraderie here in the office of people from the Cleveland area. There are a lot of us, and the rivalry between the Houston Oilers and the Cleveland Browns gives us a lot of opportunities to share our Cleveland heritage.
Once you're a Browns fan, you're always a Browns fan. I still vividly recall the days when I was a kid going to the stadium late in the season when it was raining or sleeting or snowing, and we had our sleeping bags and our hot chocolate and all that. And, you know, that's a great memory.
My mission, SGS-65, which we flew in July of this year, we flew a big flag for the Cleveland Browns on board as a tribute to them and hoping that would bring them luck in this football season. It looks like it's doing its job so far.
It definitely has, and Bill Belichick isn't taking any chances. He invited Don Thomas to come speak to the team last night, give him a little inspiration. Don talked about focus and how the astronauts have to be focused on the space shuttle. Told the Browns that's what they had to do tonight. So we'll see what a little NASA inspiration does for the Browns against the Oilers.
And we all know how well Coach Bill likes focus, Jeff.
Absolutely.
As a 28-year-old in 1964, Frank Ryan led the Cleveland Browns to an NFL championship. Dr. Frank Ryan is now a distinguished professor of mathematics right here in Houston at Rice University. And that day nearly 3 decades ago is still very close to his heart. Today, he sits on a stone bench with the walls of Rice University surrounding him. Dr. Frank Ryan is an academic leader. 30 years ago, he was a leader of a different kind. Looking at the old Sports Illustrated cover from that year, it said, Cleveland quarterback Frank Ryan calmly dominates Baltimore. Did you calmly do it?
I don't think there was very much calmness, but a lot of intensity. And that game really brought out the best in our team. We did a lot of things right on both sides of the ball.
After a scoreless first half, Ryan connected with wide receiver Gary Collins 3 times for touchdowns. The Browns beat the Colts 27-0, and Frank Ryan left with an impression that will last forever.
I think Gary and I were always together. I mean, we worked so hard, and I sort of had a second sense about what he was doing and he about me. The second one was a hook and go, actually, which Gary was an adroit actor on the field, and he just suckered the defensive back terribly and was wide open. He was so open that when I threw the ball, I said, oh, my God, I'm going to miss this, you know. But it was actually caught him in stride, and he must have been 20 yards behind everybody on that one. And then he fought Bobby Boyd for a long pass that I threw into the wind. It was one of those things that quacked because it was sort of wobbling like this, and Gary wrestled it away and then wrestled himself away from Bobby Boyd and coming across the goal line. He's coming into that wonderful bleacher section, and he's just engulfed with people, and then they poured out of the stands and gave him the sort of rousing cheer that he deserved.
Ryan earned his doctorate degree from Rice the year following that championship win. 1968 was his last season with the Cleveland Browns, and his first job in his new life was quite impressive. Frank Ryan directed the effort that effectively employed computers in the United States Congress.
In fact, the first big system that I put in was the electronic voting system, which automated the voting process, and part of that system involved a clock that ticked down from 15 minutes to 0. And on the first occasion of that system being used, the members of the House sort of in unison started saying, you know, 10, 9, 8, to clock it down to the end, just like the end of a winning football game, you know, when the crowd gets really excited and they've got it won and they're going with the clock down to the 0.
Did it feel like a winning football game?
Well, my reputation was on the line. Can you imagine what would have happened if the clock had frozen at 4 seconds? No, we did some wonderful things there, and I'm so thankful because I feel like I've made a real contribution, you know, beyond sort of the academic things that I've done to the way the world works, and I feel good about that.
Jeff, after we talked to Dr. Frank Ryan today, he said he was going home to find an ensemble of orange and brown to wear here to the Astrodome tonight.
Always important to have that orange and brown ensemble.
Absolutely.
We'll talk with the man in charge, head coach Bill Belichick. Browns Thursday night. That's what we're calling this. Yeah. It's coming right back.
No, we expected to win. I don't think anybody's surprised that, at least on the team, that, you know, that we're 4-1.
It's probably safe to say that in the 49-year history of the Cleveland Browns, no head coach has created as much controversy as Bill Belichick.
Absolutely. In 4 years, he's almost completely changed the Browns roster. In fact, only 6 players are left from the team Bill took over. He cut Bernie Kosar. He got rid of many other fan favorites. He's never had a winning record. He's never made the playoffs. But his boss just loves him and trusts him completely. I had a chance to talk with Bill about his team, his coaching, and his position with the Browns. And listen closely to this. Bill kind of has some things to say.
At 4-1, which when you looked at the schedule and the teams you had to play, I'm sure you thought we have to be in a pretty good position. How thrilled are you, Bill, to be where you're at right now, but even more so maybe with the progress the team has made through the first 5 games of the year?
Well, I think our team's, you know, fought through some adversity early in the season in terms of injuries and, you know, a couple tough games on the road. But, you know, I think we're making progress as a football team. I think we, you know, still need some things that fundamentally that we need to improve on to be at the level that we want to be at. But I see us making progress. But, you know, we expected to win. I don't think anybody's surprised that, at least on the team, that, you know, that we're 4-1. You know, we expect to go out there and win. We have high aspirations. And I think that, you know, this team's mature, it's realistic, and it knows that if we do the things that we're capable of doing and doing them right, that we can be competitive with anybody.
It's been 4, I would think, tough years for you. You had to come in and rebuild a team the way you wanted to do it, and there are 6 players left that were here when you took over.
Right.
Are you much more comfortable, Bill, with the team you have right now? Not only with the personnel, but the attitude and your place in the team?
Well, sure, Jeff. I think that, you know, I realized from day one that this was going to take some time, and player development definitely takes time. And, you know, it takes a year, 2 years for players to develop, and then the time that the players playing with each other takes a certain amount of time. And until you get all the players in place, or the majority of them in place, then they can't grow together. You know, even though an individual can improve from one year to the next, when the guy beside him changes, or the guy, you know, 2 places away from him changes, it's hard to develop that continuity. I knew that was going to take some time, and it took us some time to get the players in here that, you know, had enough talent and had enough future that they could grow together. Basically, that took place in the first 3 years, and then we supplemented this year with a couple high draft choices and 5 or 6 free agent guys. But the rest of the core of our team is carried over from '93, and you know, I think we should continue to build as a franchise and as an organization, that those players should continue to be able to grow and build together over the next couple of years. And I think that's where you want to be as a football team and where you want your program to be.
It's never easy when a coach comes in and wants to develop his system. And it hasn't been, I don't think it's been easy for you here. I mean, you had to do some things that weren't very popular that you wanted to do to get this team where you wanted it. How have you weathered that, Bill?
Well, again, I think that the players, and not taking anything away from anybody that was here, but at the point in their career that when I was coaching them was, you know, at the end of it, and there really are very few of the players that I've coached here in 91, 92, or 93 that aren't with the Browns who are still productively playing in the league. The ones who are playing are playing for us: Tony, Eric, Leroy, AP, Rob, and Michael Dean. So, you know, the players that were here we kept. The other players we eventually tried to upgrade, you know, when we could get them, when we could get young guys, talented guys in here, or in some cases veteran free agents to come in here and you know, take their spots and upgrade the team. I think that, you know, from the first time I came here, talked to Art, and we understood what would need to be done with Mike Lombardi in the personnel department, Ozzie Newsome, Jim Bailey, David Modell, all the other people in the organization. I think they all understood where the team was and you know, what it would take to get it there. Unfortunately, it's taken some time. I don't think it's been an unrealistic amount of time. We all would have liked for it to happen quicker, but you know, we did the best we could, and like I said, player development and team development is not an overnight process when you have to change a lot of people.
Sitting at 4-1, going into your bye week, going into the Astrodome, what do you have to do now, Bill, to take it from where you're at right now and go through the last part of the schedule, which is a very tough part of the schedule? How do you keep the consistency you've had so far and just keep it going through a real tough part?
We can't do anything about, you know, December and November and all that. We got to take care of one game at a time. And, you know, I've been very fortunate to be on 2 Super Bowl champion teams. We have other players that have been on Super Bowl champions: Donnie Griffin, Carl Banks, Pepper Johnson, Ernest Biner, Mark Ripien, Woody Weidenhofer at Pittsburgh, Rod Dowhauer with the Redskins. We all know what it takes. It's a day-by-day process. You got to get better every day. You got to take it one day at a time. You got to control what's right in front of you. Once you start worrying about 3 weeks ahead or 3 weeks behind, that just hurts your chances for success on what's really in front of you, and that's what's important.
Last thing, Bill, 4-1 obviously helps a lot, but you seem to be enjoying yourself more this year. Am I just imagining things there, or are you enjoying this football season and your position with this team more than ever?
Well, I've always enjoyed the competitive aspect of the job, the challenge of putting a team together, going out there and playing against another good NFL team, and you know, just the competition of the sport of football. I think it's a great game, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. But I think that you know, the fruits of 3 years of hard work and building the team on the players, the coaches, and the organization's part are starting to show. I think we've got a good team, and naturally I'm pleased with the 4 wins that we have to this point, but at the same time, nobody's satisfied, or we haven't achieved any type of goal at this point. So, you know, we're going to keep working toward higher expectations, but, you know, again, it's a week-to-week proposition. I think as long as we can continue to make progress as a football team, we'll be all right, and that's what pleases me the most, is to see everybody working hard and doing better.
And Bill said he had absolutely no trouble at all with Art Modell predicting a playoff season this year. He said that's his goal every year, and it is this year too.
So far, so good, Jeff.
Yeah.
He hasn't been coaching here for more than a decade, but when we come back, Bum Phillips is still saying, "I love you, Blue." We'll talk with him when Browns Thursday Night continues.
Bill Belichick mentioned a bit earlier that very few of his former Cleveland Browns are now productive players with other NFL teams. Well, the Oilers' Webster Slaughter is one of them.
He was basically an unknown second-round draft choice out of San Diego State. A California kid sent to Cleveland, Ohio to start his NFL career.
Everybody there grew on me. I enjoyed everything about that place until I left. You know, I felt like for the 6 years I was there, I gave them everything I had. I was loyal to them. And then I felt like, you know, when it was time for them to show a little loyalty, that maybe they lacked off a little bit. So I felt like it was best that I leave.
Webster Slaughter has found the loyalty and the money he wasn't offered by the Browns in Houston. He signed with the Oilers as a free agent during the 1992 season. He caught 77 passes last year in the Oilers' run-and-shoot offense. He was the leading receiver in the AFC until December 19th, when he tore 2 knee ligaments in a game against Pittsburgh. Slaughter was expected to be out a minimum of 9 months. He made it back in 8, just in time for the start of the season.
If I had to miss 4 or 5 games, I would have felt terrible. You know, I felt like right after the season that I needed to get back at the beginning of the year because I wanted to kind of prove to everybody that, you know, I can get back and be the same ball player. Because there was a lot of doubts floating around here, and I'm sure elsewhere, that I can come back and play the same way that I played before. The knee feels okay. You know, there's times when we run a lot of plays, successful plays, or maybe we're in a long game, and it'll get a little tired. It'll feel a little weaker than the other one. But, you know, I still managed to make it through the game. It's not that bad. You know, I can still play to where if you were to watch me, you wouldn't think anything was wrong. You know, I would just feel it.
Even with the knee surgery, Slaughter is the Oilers' second leading receiver after 5 games with 18 catches. He's playing in an offense that features wide receivers, something he always wanted in Cleveland.
Do you miss anything in particular? Anything stick in your head?
Well, I miss the camaraderie that we had there. I miss, you know, the trainers. I miss the equipment guys. I miss the players in the locker room, strength coach. You know, just everybody we were like a family there, especially me, like I said, since it was my rookie year coming in. A lot of guys took me under their wing, and I tried to do the same with the younger guys as I got older. So I miss everything about it. I miss the fans. I mean, the fans were some of the best fans I'd ever played for. So I miss them, the dog pound. You know, you miss everything about it, a place that you just, you know, grew to love. I never thought I would like Cleveland when I first got there because of the weather and all that, but it grew on me.
But I don't think you can be the least bit unhappy with the way things have worked out for you.
No, I'm not. You know, like I said, sometimes in life, you know, you have to make a decision what's best for you. And even though I missed it, you know, when I left, I'm very happy here. You know, and I enjoy the fans here as well, and hopefully we can start winning a little more to give those fans something to cheer about.
We finished the interview yesterday. Webster got up, walked away, came back and said, "Hey, can you please make sure you say hi to all the Browns fans in Cleveland for me?" And he was very sincere, so Webb says hi to everybody.
It was good to see Webster.
It really was, yeah. He was always a really nice guy.
Jeff, the Browns and the Oilers have played 24 games here in the Astrodome in Houston since this place opened back in 1970. The Browns have won 14 games, the Oilers 10. But despite the relative youth of this series, there is some history here. Although 1970 was the first year for the Astrodome, it was the last year that Blanton Collier would coach the Cleveland Browns. Just a week before this game, Collier announced he was retiring at the end of the season. He had been the Browns head coach for 8 years. The Browns beat the Oilers 21-10 that Monday night. Quarterback Bill Nelson threw a touchdown pass to Gary Collins, and Leroy Kelly rushed for 108 yards and scored a touchdown himself. By 1974, the Oilers were ready to let off a little steam. The Browns had won 4 in a row at the Astrodome, but this meeting would have a different ending. The physical beating the Browns took was a fitting end to a season that saw the Browns finish 4-10, the worst record in team history to that point. Mike Phipps threw a 41-yard touchdown pass to Steve Holden, but Houston left a winner 28-24. Heading into the 1977 game, the Browns were trying to shake off a 2-game losing streak. They needed a dramatic 54-yard drive at the end of the game to do it. Running back Greg Pruitt carried the football 4 times on the winning drive and threw this 13-yard pass to Cleo Miller, setting up kicker Don Cockcroft. As time ran out, Cockcroft kicked a 30-yard field goal, and the Browns beat the Oilers 24-23. He was just 21 years old, but in 1985, Bernie Kosar made his first NFL start in the Astrodome, and the Browns defense kept the Oilers on ice all day. The defense didn't allow a touchdown, while Kosar threw a 68-yard one to Clarence Weathers. Bernie completed 8 of 19 passes for 208 yards, and his debut as a starting quarterback was a success. Browns 21, Oilers 6. And, Jeff, a guy that used to patrol the sidelines here with a big white hat was involved in a few of those games, too.
Absolutely. The Houston Oilers media guide calls Bum Phillips one of the most all-time favorite figures in Houston sports, and that just might be an understatement. He was head coach of the Oilers for 6 years, from 1975 to 1980. He's now one of the Oilers radio analysts, but he will always be known as the guy in the big white cowboy hat.
It's not AstroTurf under his feet anymore, but he still has the boots, the belt buckle, the Western shirt, and, of course, the hat. Bum Phillips also has a 2,000-acre ranch and plenty of livestock.
We had a lot of fun this morning. We worked cattle. We separated some and made sure some of them were going to have calves, and the ones that wasn't, we were going to sell them.
How much?
Kind of like football. If you can't win, you got to get rid of them.
But Bum Phillips won. In 6 years with the Oilers, he became the winningest coach in team history. He took the Oilers to the AFC Championship game 2 straight years, in 1978 and 79. They lost both times to the Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers, but those teams became the most enjoyable in Oiler history.
You know, we had great times. We had some good kids like Earl, you know, Carl Malkin, Pastor Rooney. We had some down-to-earth good kids. My bunch used to carry a six-pack, and this bunch carries a briefcase and a lawyer or an agent. I don't know, that's not really true, but it's changed. Money's got to the point where people are thinking more of how long can I play and should I play on this ankle or something like that, you know, and maybe take a year off of my career because they make so much money in a career. So, I don't know. It's changed that way.
Football hasn't completely given way to ranching for Bum Phillips. He's now in his 5th season as an analyst on the Oilers radio network, and his son, Wade Phillips, is now head coach of the Denver Broncos. But when Bum's coaching career ended in 1985, after 5 seasons with the New Orleans Saints, there was no question how he was going to spend his life after football.
And that'll work out. Well, I started off on the ranch. My grandfather had one, and that's where I was born and raised, and that's what I always looked forward to doing. And everybody asked me how come I retired. Well, I didn't. I retired because I wanted to get back on the ranch, and I'd finally made enough money to have one and have me some cows and horses and do the thing. The second love in my life was cattle and horses. First was football, and still is.
One thing Bum said, every time they played in Cleveland, if they happened to beat the Browns, he said it never failed. Art Modell always made his way from the booth down into the locker room and congratulated him on beating his own team. And Bum Phillips said it was one of the best things that ever happened to him. He said he has so much respect for Art because he was one of the very few owners that ever did that to him.
And speaking of Art Modell, he's been a fixture in Cleveland since the 1960s. Art Modell, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, sits down with Gib Shanley to talk about the future of his team when Browns Thursday night continues.
Before the start of the season, Browns owner Art Modell stood in front of the Touchdown Club luncheon and announced to everyone the Browns would be a playoff team this year. And so far, Art looks pretty good on that one. Gib Shanley had a chance to sit down and talk with Art about his team and his plans for its future.
Thanks, Jeff. The Browns have a 4-1 record, as everybody knows, and it's the final 11 games of the season that will be the fans' concern. With us tonight is Browns owner Art Modell to talk about the future. Art, how do you feel about this team for the final 11 games?
Well, I've been around a long time, and we're only at the quarter-mile, Paul. We got 12 games to go in the regular season. I like what I see so far. We're a much better team than last year. I think we were set back significantly with the injury to Tommy Vardell. It's up to the other running backs to step up to and fill the void, but I do like what I see. We have a good football team.
What are all the things you like about the team?
The depth, number one. The emergence of second, third, and fourth-year players who are now coming into their own. A brilliant first-round draft of Langham and Alexander. I just think it's all around. It's a good situation. I like Steve Crosby as coordinator. I like Testaverde, the way he's moving the ball club. I like the confidence that the team has developed for itself. I think it bodes well for the future, but believe me, there's a lot of more football to play.
Well, excluding the possibility of more injuries, are there any concerns you have about the team? Or the opponents?
Well, the second half is a tougher schedule on paper, but I dismiss out of hand the way people are so cavalier about the Indianapolis Colts and the Arizona Cardinals. A week after we shut out the Cardinals, they beat Minnesota, a very strong football team in Phoenix. Indianapolis Colts beat a strong Seattle team, so there's great parity in the league right now, and there are no softies.
If we can get to another subject, where do things stand regarding the stadium?
We're having ongoing dialogue and discussions with Mayor White and his people, and I am sure that something will have to be determined soon. I don't think, and nor do I expect, nor do I want the city itself to do anything. It has to have the support and cooperation of the county, the Port Authority, and even the state.
Are you worried about it, concerned, or are you pretty sure something will get done?
Well, it's not my call. I would hope in the interest of the community that something is done. We cannot and will not play in this facility unless we modernize it.
Does that sounded ominous?
No, it's not meant to be ominous. I don't play the game that way. I'm a Clevelander. I want the Browns to stay here. But the realities of the matter is that we can't have Browns fans, 750,000 a year or 800,000 a year, come to the stadium. They do every week in and week out, while the people at the Cavaliers and the baseball arena are enjoying a spectator sport in the laps of luxury. It's not fair to the football fan. And the money that we're asking to modernize the stadium, every nickel, I repeat, every nickel will be used for public safety, comfort, convenience, and accessibility. Now, one nickel in my pocket for that of the Browns.
Art, would you prefer a brand new stadium or the renovation of the old one?
A new facility would be ideal. It's double the cost of modernization. It requires a significant amount of parking, and there is no parking downtown to accommodate the people that we have to bring in every Sunday. And I think the more realistic approach would be to modernize, and we have a brilliant plan of modernization. It'll be one of the great stadiums in the country, despite its age. And the age is a plus because there's great history to the stadium. There's a great bit of nostalgia. A lot of great things have happened in that ballpark over the years.
And now you know how Art Modell feels about his 1994 Browns and Cleveland Municipal Stadium. Let's go back to Jeff on the Astrodome.
All righty, Gib. Oilers owner Bud Adams wants a new stadium, period. He doesn't want to talk about renovation. He wants a new dome stadium here in Houston, and that's not going over real well right now.
Yeah, they'd like the taxpayers to pay for it.
Absolutely.
That never goes over well.
So that they can have more seats to sell more tickets to the taxpayers who paid for the place.
That's right. For 14 years now, Ozzie Newsome has been a part of the Cleveland Browns. If you're a Browns fan, it probably seems like you've known Ozzie forever. But this you may not know. Newsome puts in 70 to 80 hours a week doing everything from going over the offensive game plan with offensive coordinator Steve Crosby to going over player moves with personnel directors and coaches from all across the NFL. It's a job Ozzie almost seems perfect for.
As a kid growing up in junior high and high school, you know, when there was a time of lapse in a classroom, I would be diagramming plays, you know, and so I've always had a sense, I would always be the guy that would be organizing the games, you know, in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So it's been something that I've had a passion for, I guess you could say. If this opportunity hadn't presented itself to me, I think I would have found myself somewhere doing it, whether it would just been, you know, in a local community league team, just, you know, helping out. I think I would have, you know, kept my hands in it.
Ozzie Newsome stands on the sideline today as a part of the Cleveland Browns coaching staff. He's been there for 4 years now. But a coach isn't what Browns fans think of when they think of Ozzie Newsome. They see number 82 running out onto the football field like he did for 13 seasons here in Cleveland. They see a tight end catching passes at a rate that will almost assuredly put him in the Hall of Fame next year, his first year of eligibility. The Wizard of Oz left a legacy behind that no tight end in the history of the NFL can match. His 662 catches for nearly 8,000 yards are products of a perfect match.
My big thing is that what I was scouted and drafted for, they brought me in and gave me the opportunity to do it. I mean, when they moved me from a receiver to a tight end after my first mini camp here, and they said they're moving me to tight end to throw the football to me, and then at the end of my career to be the all-time leading tight end in reception, I did what I was drafted for. Every year I go and searching, you know, for a tight end, at least since I've been in this position in the organization, and they're tough to find. And then when you find one, everybody else knows about that guy, and they don't last on the draft board too long.
Newsome didn't last long either. He was drafted in the first round out of Alabama in 1978. 16 years later, he finds himself on the Browns practice field, coaching football. In his office, you'll find pictures of Bear Bryant, Newsome's college coach at Alabama, and a man Ozzie calls a big influence in his life. But that doesn't mean this 38-year-old wants to coach forever.
My passion, and if I had the rather to choose my future, would be more toward Lombardi's, John Wood, you know, people like that, Ron Wolf, where, you know, where you're running the team, you know, the personnel and the whole end of the draft, the free agency, and, you know, and having the opportunity to participate in all of that, I think it's really preparing me for it. But I think it's also, I think I'm going to be able to add something more, in that given the opportunity with Bill to be able to be out on the field over the last 2 years, including this one, to be able to set in and go through a game plan and a practice plan and know what the coaches are thinking. I think that's going to also be an advantage to me, because I'll be knowing what the coaches are thinking. You know, I have a good idea of what they're thinking, and I think all of that is important as you run an organization, instead of just having, you know, one guy that's maybe is an administrative guy and one guy is a football guy. Hopefully I'll be able to mesh the two, and then you throw in 13 years of being out on the football field and having some idea how a player thinks. And even though now I think I missed the boat a little bit from the way they think, you know, I think all of those things could lend to me where I would be more valuable to an opportunity for an organization in that capacity than to be just stuck in one or the other. That's what my main intentions and my main motivations are right now. Hey, you know, I left a good track record out on the field, and now I want to leave a good track record off the field.
Jeff, Ozzie Newsome, first of all, is very thankful to owner Art Modell for giving him a chance and giving him a job where he can do something. And secondly, he thinks that Bill Belichick and Mike Lombardi have given him an awful lot of trust. They've given him jobs to do and have trusted him in it. And, you know, Ozzie, you don't see him too much on game day. He's on the sidelines there, but during the week, this guy is doing an awful lot of work.
And you get the feeling he's going to be with the Browns for a long, long time. Absolutely. Okay. We're about 15 minutes away from kickoff. The 4-1 Browns against the 1-4 Oilers. Now, that Oiler record might make Browns fans feel pretty confident about tonight's game. Makes the Browns a little nervous.
This is, I think, a very dangerous team to go into their home on another national televised game for them. They know they were a little bit embarrassed last time. They're going to try and do everything in their power to come out and play much better.
When they're back to the wall, and I can remember that pretty good. When our back to the wall, you got to go out and you do anything you can to try to get out of that situation. I mean, you'll fight to death. Nah, that's what I'm suspecting. It's going to be a battle, a hard game. They played Dallas tough there. They beat Cincinnati, so, you know, it's going to be a tough battle.
They're a very explosive ball club, and they can explode at any time. I think last year they won, 11 or 12 straight games, so any time those guys can explode. They have the talent down there. They just have to put it together. And just hopefully it takes another week for them to put it together.
We'll hear what Gib Shanley has to say about tonight's game and the Browns so far this season.
We'll be right back with Browns Thursday night. It's now Gib Shanley's turn to tell us what he thinks is in store for the Cleveland Browns for the rest of this 1994 season.
The Browns and Oilers will meet tonight fresh from a bye weekend, which the Browns didn't need, but the Oilers did need desperately. The Browns have built up a head of steam while the Oilers were falling apart both physically and emotionally. It's a bit too early by about 8 weeks to talk about the playoffs, but the line is beginning to form. In the AFC, San Diego, Miami, Kansas City, and the Browns are grouped with Pittsburgh, Buffalo, New England, and Seattle nearby. That's 8 teams with possibilities and hope. Optimism for the Browns should be tempered for 2 reasons. First, the easier part of the schedule on paper is the first half of the season. Secondly, the Browns' recent history, the past 3 years, is one of collapse during November and December. It's a shade too early to make the Miami travel plans to see the Browns in the Super Bowl based on the 4-1 start. Remember, the Japanese got off to a rousing start back in 1941.
2 days before Christmas in 1989, the Browns had to come in here into the Astrodome and beat the Oilers to win the AFC Central and get into the playoffs. The Browns were down by 3 points, 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. They put together a nice drive. How about 9 plays, 58 yards? Kevin Mack rushed for 27 of those yards on 3 straight plays, the final 4 right there on the game-winning touchdown. It was probably the most emotional moment the Browns have ever had here in the Astrodome, and it's one of my very favorite Browns memories, and the guy who gave it to us is joining us right now. Houston resident Kevin Mack. What's this Houston resident stuff?
I had to come down here and get into some warm weather.
Nope. And he had to work on his golf game.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. It's going to take a lot of practice, that's for sure.
Kevin, have you been watching the Browns very much, keeping track of what's going on?
Well, unfortunately, they don't show the Browns down here too much. You know, I had to catch what I can see on ESPN. Every now and then they show some flashes of them, but they look pretty good so far, what I've seen.
Kevin, the Houston defense ranks 28th in the NFL in rushing defense. I mean, the Browns, a good rushing team, but with Tommy Vardell out, what do you think that will do tonight with their defense and the Browns offense as it stands right now?
I think it's going to be a pretty good matchup. I think that's probably going to be the biggest matchup during the whole game, because that's the toughest part of the Oilers team is their defense. And right now, the team here, you know, from what I hear, they're just barely hanging on my threads, and there's some internal turmoil going on. I think if the Oilers defense go out and play pretty well tonight, they're going to give the Oilers a good chance to win the game.
How about that Oilers offense with Warren Moon not in there, and then Cody getting hurt in the first game? They've been all over the place, Kevin, and the Browns defense has been very good this year.
It's definitely a different offense for the Oilers, and like you say, the Browns defense has always been real good, and from what I've seen, these guys, they're hungry, and they're out killing guys right now. So I think they can take control of the game and control the pace of the game and where it goes tonight.
Kevin, I think one thing we've got to ask you, when Vardell went down, a lot of talk back in Cleveland.
Here it comes.
One was Ron Wolfley. We all know he has a bad back. The second name that was mentioned was Kevin Mack. I mean, did the Browns contact you, and would you be interested, or were you?
Or are you enjoying golf too much?
Well, a little bit of both. You know, I'm enjoying playing golf, but also I'm still working out. Unfortunately, I wasn't contacted. I would have loved to be contacted, but, you know, who knows? Never can tell what's going to happen in the future, so I'm leaving my options open.
We'll work on that swing.
Okay.
Thanks very much for joining us, Kevin. Hope you enjoyed our show. We'll be here when? Right after the ball game?
Right after the game.
A little post game. Enjoy the game.